Well, welcome to the ADRA Canada Insider Podcast. We have another episode here today with 3 special guests. My name is Heather, and I'd like to go around the table and introduce who I have with me here today.
My name is Anita Odondi. I'm the Emergency Program Director.
And I'm Steve Matthews, and I'm the Executive Director for ADRA Canada.
And here beside me is someone who normally is behind the camera safely and always pushing me in front of the camera. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, my name is Frank Spangler, and I am the Media Specialist at ADRA Canada. And I guess, as I think about it, it's my first time in front of the camera. In front. I'm usually behind.
It's your first time all these 30 years?
I think, well, maybe once or twice before I was on. Yeah.
He manages.
It's an honor to sit with you.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So Kenya, we have several different ADRA projects going on there now, but I believe we've been operating there for quite some time.
Yes, I remember the first time that I went was, maybe 94 or so. But I also remember fundraising in Canada for a project that was being conducted by a doctor from Canada, Dr. Ken Hill, who was running a program there for disabled children. And that was the beginning project, I think. But over the years, I've visited many times to document many projects that ADRA Canada has been running there.
So what are some of the projects we have going on in Kenya now? Who are the people we're working with in Kenya right now?
Well, it was interesting. When we went there last fall, who should meet me at the airport but James Asselford, who a lot of our viewers will know as being the executive director of ADRA Canada not too long ago. And everybody thought that he had retired, but he pops up again here in ADRA Kenya as the country director. And it's really a good place for him, I think. He grew up in that country as a young boy and knows the people, the culture, the language. I think he'll do very well there as he comes back from retirement.
He's home, yes.
It's his home, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I've talked to many people who say, the work of ADRA, once you get there, it's addictive. It becomes part of you. And I think when I see James, he did retire, and shortly after he retired, he realized, no, I'm not ready yet. So he came back. I guess he's got the bug of working for ADRA as well over the years.
Did you warn your wife?
No.
So let's start talking about some of the work that we're doing in Kenya. I know one region is called Mandera West. What's it like up there, and what's the situation of the people that we're working with?
Mandera is a semi-desert area. It's very sandy. There are really no roads. When you're driving through the community, you make your own road. It's all sand. Like a typical semi-desert, it's small bushes around and lots of camels and cattle. Mm-hmm. That's what the people have for their food as well as for their livelihood. Mm-hmm. And when I started with ADRA Canada in 2013, a project had been ongoing since 2009 that had started as a food assistance project, because in such an environment, it's either too dry or too wet when the rains fall. Mm-hmm. Although the dryness goes for maybe 8 to 9 months of no rain, and sometimes a whole year without any rain. Wow. So at that time, we were providing food through the Canadian Food Grains Bank. And after 2-3 years of just providing food, started to teach them how to grow vegetables that could survive long dry periods, and started teaching them how to conserve water as much as possible so that they can use for the vegetables and use the manure from the animals to fertilize the vegetables. And I remember people were testifying that they had never eaten kale, which is the local vegetable that we have in Kenya. They had never eaten that because they thought it was for the people that lived in Nairobi. And for them, it was milk and meat. And they were very, very pleased by this. They started selling as awareness grew, and women were making income for the very first time in their lives selling this vegetable, which was a rare commodity. And it has since grown to teaching them how to take care of their animals better, how to conserve water even more. And now it is such a success story, one of our most successful stories. When you go there now, and you see the portions of land that have been fenced with grass in them. It's a miracle. Yeah, it's a blessing.
And with the fenced areas, we've taught them how to make fodder, so basically to make hay bales. They make a wooden box and they pack the hay into that, and so that's how they are able to save food. Because when it rains there, it gets very green. I was shocked while we were there. They told me that it had started raining 8 days before, and everything was lush and green. And I'm looking and thinking, like, this field looks like such a fertile place, but once the rain goes, everything dries up again. So they're able to take that, make fodder out of it. But it was interesting because we went to Mandera to document the drought.
Yes.
And
It's been going on for 8 months.
8 months, yes.
Wow. No rain.
Yes.
So we had our tickets booked. We flew over, and it's funny. Just before we left from Canada, we hear that Frank's saying it's raining a lot here.
Yes.
Then when we get to Nairobi, he's like, I don't know if you guys should actually come up here. It's so bad. And so maybe, Frank, if you want to tell your experience there.
Exactly. The whole reason why we went was to go and document the drought. I had never been into Mandera before, and so other people had gone. Anita, you had gone, and Sharmila had gone, and so we had a lot of still shots, but we didn't have any video to tell a video story about, like you say, one of the most successful projects. So the idea of my coming on this trip was to go in and get some really good video of the horrible drought. But about a week before I was to fly in, we were getting messages, you probably won't be able to go. The community is cut off because of a huge flood.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Not only was it raining there, but it was raining further up the river. The seasonal river that comes by the ADRA office there, from Ethiopia even. It was really raining heavy up there, and that water was just coming all the way down and had flooded the whole area. They said that the water was almost up to where the airstrip was.
Wow.
And the airstrip's on the opposite side of where the town is.
Yes, with no road, well, there's a road
It's
but
a
no
dirt,
bridge.
And it's a dirt airstrip too.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they thought we probably wouldn't be able to fly in. But then 2 days before, they said the water has receded, and it looks like the plane is going to go. If you want to go, come. But you're going to have to cross over a river in a barrel.
In the barrel?
Well, it wasn't clear whether I was going to be inside the barrel, like I was going over Niagara Falls or something, or on top of the barrel, riding on top.
Either way, it sounded exciting.
Yes,
Or
well,
something.
I don't mind getting wet. I know how to swim, but my camera doesn't know how to swim. And so I wasn't very sure about going in, and yet we were really looking forward to getting these shots of this community and documenting this story. So when the plane decided to go, I said, okay, I'll go. And we were able to land fine, and the water had receded. But as we walked away from the airstrip, the plane took off, and I knew there wasn't going to be another plane for 3 days. So we were stuck there. There was no facilities at the airstrip. There's no airport or town or anything. It's just a bush.
Yeah.
And so I knew I had to cross that river. And as I got closer to it, I could see people coming this way, struggling. I think they were late to catch the plane. I saw this lady fall into the water at a very swift flowing area, and I thought, boy, I don't want to do that with my camera bag. But there was no choice by then. I had to go. And so I wrapped up as much of my equipment in plastic bags as I could. And I had 2 strong men on both arms taking me. We waded into the water. It came up to almost waist deep.
Wow.
For about 500 meters, I would say, that I had to walk, till I came to a small island where there was a power line, a power post sticking up out of the island. And I thought, what if this post falls down on everybody that's in the water? But I clambered up into that island, and I thought, I better get some shots of this. So I unwrapped my phone from the plastic bag and started taking shots. But as I was doing it, my hands were shaking like this. I really was... the young people today say I really got shook. And by the time that I had gotten there, I guess within the 2 or 3 days, they had saw that there was enough of a need for crossing this river that they had put a number of barrels together and made a barrel raft. So I didn't have to cross over in a barrel, or on a barrel.
Yes.
I was actually able to sit on a raft, which I was very thankful for. And as I was approaching the shore, I saw all of these people. And I thought, well, maybe they're just there because, this dramatic flood is happening and they want to see it. I found out later they were there to see me. The Canadian, the white guy Canadian, riding across on the raft.
Local entertainment for the day.
Yes. But that was my experience of getting into Takaba, which is where our ADRA office is located. And as I was wading through that water, I thought, Anita shouldn't have to do this.
Yes,
and that's when I sent the message.
I remember you sent a message, very kind, that Anita shouldn't, walk through, since it was waist deep, right? Yeah, very unsafe.
But the interesting part was, I think that just made us want to go even more.
Yes, we said,
Yes. Frank can't have all the fun, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So funny.
When we arrived, thankfully the river had receded some, so rather than having to wade through 500 meters of waist deep water, it was only up to our ankles for a lot of it, and then up to our knees. Only got waist deep when we had to jump onto the raft. It was the same raft, but as I got there and looking at it from my engineering perspective, I'm looking and seeing a raft with a rope tied to the end of the raft to what I thought was a fairly small tree on one side, and then going all the way across the river tied to another tree on the other side. When we started going out. And this wasn't a slow-flowing river, was it, Frank?
No.
This thing was moving pretty quick. And so we started to go out, and it was like almost like a slingshot effect, where you go out and the river took the raft until it brought up into the rope, and then they would pull it back over. Yeah. So that was our experience to get across.
It was very smart. They had it roped up.
Oh, yeah.
If it hadn't been, people would have been downstream very quickly.
You'd have been swept away quite quickly, yeah. But it was certainly an interesting experience to get across there, but... I'm glad we went because what we saw after made it so much more worthwhile.
So we have another special guest here on the table with us today. This is my son, Noah, who is... He's not quite 2 years old yet and still quite attached to mommy. So thank you for your understanding and patience. So I wanted to back up a little bit just to recap the work that we're doing there. So it's a place of extremes where there are months or even years of drought. So what ADRA started off doing was emergency food distributions, and then that transitioned into teaching them how to grow their own vegetables and preserve household water, which then grew into teaching them how to preserve water for their cattle and to fence off pasture land so that they could grow fodder to feed their cattle through the dry seasons. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and all of that was not things that they were doing before. Those are things that they learned through the ADRA project.
Yes.
So it does sound like it's been quite the successful project.
I would say that traditionally they came from a very nomadic culture, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they even have roots back in Somalia?
Yes.
The people that live there in Kenya now come from the nomadic people of Somalia.
Exactly, yes. So for nomadic tribes, you just move from one area to another, wherever there is rain and pasture for the animals. Yeah. So in addition to the things that you mentioned, Heather, is also teaching them how to preserve the vegetables as well as use the products from the animals. They sell the milk, they make cheese. There's also honey. So there are things that are being sold to increase the household income, selling of vegetables as well.
What I found interesting about the honey was that the honeybees were being farmed by the sons of the people that owned the land. So it was these young men who basically they told us it was on their mother's land, and they found trees that were really good for setting up their honeybee farm, and now they're making a source of income as well. So it's not only the parents that are benefiting, but now their sons, who are young fellows in their probably early to mid 20s, who are now earning income as well for themselves, and they take that and they sell it they can sell it to Nairobi or different markets around. So it was really neat to be able to see that as well. We got to visit that while we were there.
And now those young men don't have to migrate. They have a business of their own that keeps them there. That's amazing.
Can stay together. So this is regenerated land. Yeah, the farms are on regenerated land.
So what's one measure of just how successful this project is? Is there any one measurement that stands out to you that demonstrates its success?
I have a non-empirical. I don't know if you
Yes.
have something that you'd like to share first.
You go first.
Well, when we were there, so this is a Muslim community. So the entire area is almost entirely Muslim. So we met with the community leaders, some of the local municipal officials and elders in the community. And they said, when we first heard that there was a Christian organization coming into our community, our first instinct was to say no. We don't want Christians coming in here. But when they found out that we were humanitarian and that we weren't coming in to proselytize, they said, okay, let's give them a try.
Very cautiously.
Very cautiously.
Yes.
And it really was. They said, let's give them, it literally was give them a try.
A try.
And if we don't want them here, we're going to send them back out. And now, after being there for a number of years, they said, we don't want you to leave.
Yes.
So we've become a part of their community, and they really appreciate our presence there, to the point that whenever you're traveling to that area, there are some safety concerns. We're very close to Somalia, we're very close to the Ethiopian borders, and it's an area where Al-Shabaab has been active in the past. And they told us, you're safe here.
Wow.
They said, they took it upon themselves. They said, we're going to protect you.
Wow.
They gave us our own security detail to travel around with us. And they said, nothing is happening to you.
One thing that stands out for me that is a big success is this community has never had a bank ever. They don't know what a bank is, right? Yeah. But because of the small groups of women and men that are now having a source of income and have been trained on savings and business keeping, Kenya Commercial Bank has agreed to come and start the first branch in this whole region.
Wow.
They are so excited.
Yeah.
It is such a success story.
The thing that I noticed that I think spoke to me of their great appreciation of ADRA was how hospitable they were.
Oh, yes.
Very
Yes.
hospitable.
I mean, I know it's a hospitable culture
Yeah.
to start with, but they were so glad that we had come from
Yes.
Canada to visit their community. In fact, when I went to interview one lady, she had a goat tied up in her kitchen, ready to give to me as a gift.
And this is a huge thing for them because
Yes.
a goat is what you sell when your child is sick. This is your money. This is your
Wow.
bank.
That's right.
So that's a
And
big gift.
so I said, I'm sorry, I just can't take that.
Yeah.
Thank you for offering.
I'm vegetarian.
And yeah. But she said, okay, well, at least let me give you a chicken.
Yeah.
And so she gave me a chicken.
And we ate
And-
that chicken when we came.
I think
well,
you
I am
guys
not
had it, yeah.
vegetarian.
So that was my impression, that they were just so thankful for what ADRA had done in their community.
But it's interesting when you're working in a place that has a different culture as well, and that's one thing that I really valued about my role in ADRA, is getting to meet different people with different cultures. So we go, and they had a gift for each of us as we were leaving. So I was given a cashmere shawl, very, very nice. And when they passed it over to me, they had a gift for my wife.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, so I thought it was
Yeah.
very
I
nice.
could- yeah.
And the lady that was giving me the dress for my wife, she said, this is for your wife, and she asked me how many wives I had. I thought that was quite interesting. I said, just one.
Yeah.
She said, really, just one? I said, yeah, just one.
Yeah.
So it was that was an interesting perspective. I told my wife that after, and she thought that was kind of funny. Yes.
I think one other thing that we should mention is how the influence of ADRA has had a very positive impact for women in the community.
Yes.
It was a very patriarchal culture. You might remember how back in the Bible days, if a man wanted to divorce his wife, all he had to do is say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you.
Yes.
I thought that was just still back in Bible times, but they said that
It
happens
still works,
right there
yeah.
in Mandera West.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the women have been suppressed. And it's only as a result of ADRA coming into the community that the women are now rising up and being able to take hold of the civil rights that they have as a Kenyan citizen.
Yes.
And so they're now able to do more to protect themselves and their daughters.
Yeah, the women called me aside and asked for a brief meeting. They said we have very serious issues with gender-based violence, with child protection. We need to know what to do. And it was a pleasure to tell them, to remind them that we have a project that we have submitted to the Canadian government that is on protection issues and empowering the woman and teaching them and showing them how to, the whole community, the husband, the wife, the children, how to avoid and prevent and mitigate gender-based violence. So by the grace of God, I pray we get this project. Yeah.
So we began working with the Canadian Food Grains Bank as a partner when we did the food distributions and the kitchen gardens. Are they still a partner then with us in these projects we're doing now?
Yes, we still have a Canadian Food Grains Bank supported project right now. Yes.
It was interesting for me to see the ladies with their burqas and the Canadian Food Grains Bank logo and the ADRA logo on their burqas.
Very nice, yeah.
CFGB is actually a really good, strong partner for ADRA Canada. The Canadian Food Grains Bank is made up of 15 different member houses that also sit on the board. So not only are they a partner, we're part of their board. So I'm a board member for CFGB. I'm also on the CFGB Executive Committee as well. It is a Christian response to hunger. And that's why we've come together as different Christian denominations. Sometimes, we have different doctrines and that sort of thing within the Christian church, but we can all agree that we don't want to live in a world where over 800 million people go to bed hungry every night. And so that's why we come together as the Food Grains Bank, is to try to combat that.
How does it help ADRA Canada to have these kinds of partnerships?
So partnerships are very valuable to ADRA Canada, and it's something that we've put a lot of focus on in trying to build good, solid partnerships. Sometimes what it allows us to do is put strengths together between us and another organization. So we may have a strength in one country, they may have a strength in another country, and then we can go together after a proposal where we go in and ADRA focuses on the country we're strong in, and then the partner focuses on the country that they're strong in. And it gives us a stronger proposal when we go to the Canadian government to say, hey, we're working together. The other thing is that the Canadian government has really been trying to promote partnerships and trying to get different organizations in the humanitarian sector to work together, humanitarian and the development sectors. So we do try to partner in that sense. The other thing is sometimes it's there may be a partner that doesn't have a lot of their own implementation capacity, but they have funds that have come in from their constituency.
Restricted for
a certain project. Yeah, sometimes it's restricted for a certain area, but they're not working in that area. So a natural disaster happens and someone wants to donate to this hurricane response, for example, but they don't have any capacity in that country, but we do. They'll then say, well, why don't you take the funds that we've raised and use it as part of your project? So it still goes to meet the end goal. It's just it's being completed through us, and we've done the opposite. We have had opportunities. We had one recently where we had some funds that were donated to a specific response that the ADRA network itself wasn't responding to an extent where we'd be able to use those funds. We gave it to one of our partners, and they were able to use it. So it's a give and take, but it does overall help with a strengthened response in many different venues around the world that we work in.
Was there any other place that you visited while you were in Kenya?
Yeah, on our way back from Kisii, driving back to Nairobi, we passed through the Maasai Mara area, and we passed through there on the Sabbath. We were able to visit some wildlife, and sweet. I think Frank was really in his glory to be able to be there and get some some nice shots along the way.
Yes, we had a wonderful time. We were given a special invitation by an Adventist family that have a lodge there in Maasai Mara. And I always love filming the animals, and they had connections. We were able to get into a nice safari vehicle and spend a wonderful Sabbath day out in Maasai Mara. So I thought today that this would be a perfect blanket to put on our table. This is a Maasai, typical Maasai blanket.
Yes. And this blanket is red. It's red to signify fire, because this is what the Maasai wear as a blanket, but as also the outfit. It can turn into a short when you're wearing it, a scarf. They use it in the day, in the night. But because it's red, the animals think it's fire, which helps them to protect them against the animals since they live in the wild. Yeah, it's such, it's everything. It's everything. It's a bed sheet, it's a short, it's a skirt, it's a dress, it's a scarf. Very beautiful.
Now I'm trying to remember, did we see all of the big five? What did we see?
The big five one that was further away was the rhino.
Yeah.
So we saw the rhino off in a distance. He was about that big.
Yeah.
But
all the rest I think we saw.
so we got to see. We got chased by some elephants.
Yes, that was nice.
He was a little angry that we had
interrupted his morning routine.
Yes. We saw some lions. They didn't really seem very interested in us whatsoever, which was fine by me.
Yeah.
So we got very close to, was it leopard or cheetah?
Yeah, those two there.
The cheetahs.
I think the cheetah. Two of them.
Yeah. And then the other big
Lots
five
of
is
zebras,
the giraffe, right?
Giraffe, yes.
And they were quite plentiful.
And the wildebeest was
Yeah, a
also,
lot of hippopotamus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, crocodiles.
It was a nice ending to our trip to Kenya.
Yes.
I really liked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear all that ADRA has done in Kenya and is continuing to do and wants to do in Kenya. So thank you very much for joining us today on this podcast and sharing with us.
And then when we left from the Maasai, we went to the airport and flew to Rwanda. So if anybody wants to find out how our Rwanda trip was, they'll have to tune into the next one.
The next episode.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We'd like to invite you to go to adra.ca to see any photos of this podcast that you would like to see. We also are available as an audio podcast through any of the places you like to go to get your podcasts. And then we're also going to be putting this up on YouTube and Vimeo. So you just simply need to go to YouTube or Vimeo and type ADRA Insider.
ADRA Insider or
ADRA
just
Insider.
ADRA Canada.
And you'll find us there. And please share us with people that you think would be interested to hear our stories and our work. And we appreciate you spending this time with us. Thank you.